Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Founders University. I'm so excited. This is my first video I am officially recording. And to kind of inspire myself and maybe inspire you guys, I thought it would be a great idea to tell you guys my story from the ground up, right? It might be lengthy, but I wanted it in its entirety somewhere. I've been on podcasts, I've been on shows, I've been on all these things, and I've told pieces, but I've never really told the whole thing. So I'm going to use this as a twofer. One of the main part of the twofer is I'm going to then explain my whole story, then use this as curriculum, right? For myself, I'm a big fan of doing things and then mapping it out. Sometimes if I map out too much, I'll get stuck in the mapping out phase and I'll stop. So this is a part of me taking massive action, getting the job done, things that are very important to me. So I just want to share those fundamentals before I get started, so you can know my processes, right? This is not oh, hey, look how polished I am. This is a university that's going to teach you how to take action despite anything else that's going on. And if I got too crazy and said, I have to be more organized, I have to do this, I have to do that, then I would never start because I'm not going to be that organized. So it's important for me to not create all these frameworks and structures that slow me down. I want to do things that speed me up. Anyways, this video is speeding me up. So let's get this party started. All right, guys. So I'm going to go way back. All right. To childhood. When it comes to my story, I think everything is important. Life was crazy growing up. I remember, I think the first big piece of turmoil is my dad got a promotion that moved when I was in first grade. He got a promotion that moved him 4 hours away from us. We owned this house and we couldn't afford two mortgages. He was actually living in his owner's condo and one of his owner's second properties for free, because we couldn't afford to pay for both. I forgot about this, but my mom at the time shared with me that, I had a lot of anxiety as a kid. Like I needed my dad. Me and my dad were super close. Anyone who's seen my posts about him passing away 20 months ago, I'm sure you already understand that. So that relationship started when I was really young. And, I didn't even realize I had so much pain over that till my mom reminded me recently on the phone. And what happened was they were actually supposed to wait like another year until they moved, till me and my mom moved back to where my father was. But she said that I was so upset, I was crying all the time. I was very distressed that they actually moved up here sooner. I didn't even remember that. And it explains a lot, because I have abandonment issues, and we wonder where that comes from sometimes. And it can come from something as simple as your dad leaving the house for 6 months, even if it's not for something negative. And again, I share that in massive vulnerability, which you're going to get a lot of over the next couple hours of videos. But that's what this journey is about, right? We can't be a founder if we're just polished all the time, right? We can't, we're going to get exhausted if we just try to put this front up always. Things are fucked up. It's okay that they're fucked up. We're here to fix them, right? So anyways, my dad moved far away. That was the first thing. Now, my dad was a badass dad. Every time I played basketball or soccer or baseball or football, he was always the coach or the assistant coach. I don't even think he knew how to do that shit. I just think he wanted to be involved with his son, and I think that he wanted to do everything with him. And, my dad taught me a bunch of principles growing up. And, in the moment, we don't realize how smart our parents are. Hopefully, we're lucky to have parents that were as smart as my father was, right? I understand that I can be very privileged. I'm sorry if your experience wasn't the same, but a lot of us have had a similar experience. A lot of people have had the similar experience. And, our parents, when they're there, they have more intention than we realize. And my father really did that for me. He had a ton of intention. And when he raised me, he did a couple things. One of the big things was he grounded me by the hour, but he also alleviated groundings by the hour. So bad behavior, I'm in trouble for 3 hours. Good behavior, I got one of those hours removed, right? Kind of thing. And this was a unique thing for a child, especially one where we feel like there's a lot of consequences only, right? Negative consequences. Our parents teach us this accidentally, timeout, grounded, spankings, whatever, backhands, whatever you were blessed to have as a child. We're taught all these negative consequences. Now, I don't even know if my father knew the true positive impact of what he was doing. But he was actually changing my framework and my brain to look at things in a positive way. I'll never forget the first time he took an hour grounding off for good behavior. I'll never forget that. I think I was like 5. And I was getting my hair cut, which you can see I need right now. But I was getting my hair cut, and the girl was like, "Thank you, have a good day." The hairdresser said that. And I said, "No, thank you." And my dad goes, "Whoa, wow, look who's being such a gentleman today. I'm going to take an hour off of your grounding." I didn't even, that was the first time he ever did that. I didn't even know he was going to do that. And I was like, "What?" Like, I think I got super excited. I got super pumped up for this. You know, I showed him potentially in my response that this was probably a great idea. From that day forward, my father constantly did that. We had this bank account of groundings. And, you know, we've all had children. You know, I was probably grounded for thousands of hours growing up, right? Now, this also taught me the energetic balance of positive and negative, right? Bad behavior equals no video games, no TV, no going outside. Good behaviors equals more TV, more video games, more of doing whatever it is that you want. And that was really powerful for me. I don't think a lot of kids have that experience. And I've taken that throughout life, you know, and now let's mature that into adulthood. I'll just give you a live example. When I was in my teens, I caught myself being like negative a lot, or having anxiety, or whenever I was in a situation, I thought the worst was going to happen. And this was common because my father was a skeptical man. You know, he was always warning me about neighbors, and which I understand now. But as a child who cares, carefree, innocent, and trusts everything, it looked very skeptical, right? Don't do that. Don't do this. Be careful of this guy. Watch out for this. I mean, I totally get it again now, but it's more about relativity in that moment, right? When you're like, "What do you mean, Dad? Like, what do you mean I can't go over there?" So I really picked up on a lot of that skepticism. And whenever that happened in real life situations came out, or I got in trouble or called into an office, I always thought the worst was going to happen. And then at a young age, I realized that I can't always think the worst. It's like, it's not fair to me to not think something positive if I'm going to think something negative. Okay. And this is that same grounding system elevated to adulthood, right? And so I started having a negative thought that was natural and common. And I started saying, "Yeah, but what if this positive outcome happened? What if I'm going to get fired? Well, what if I get a raise? What if she doesn't like me? Well, what if she loves me?" Right. And so I kept constantly combating the negative thoughts with positive thoughts. The negative one always existed. So this isn't about removing those or anything. You get there one day, but it's really more about triggering yourself to be positive. And I think that's what my father did, you know, when I was growing up. And I think that that's really important, especially when it comes to employees today. You know, I have amazing employees who have anxiety. I remember one employee called me crying one day because she thought she made a mistake and she was scared she was going to get fired. You know, I gave her a raise that day. You know, how do you think she felt? You know, did all of her fears wash away? And sometimes we have to show up in the face of fear and really crush it with positivity. And no, not everyone deserves that treatment. She did. Other people do. They're probably around you now. But we need to do our best as well to remove other people's fears and get them into that abundance mindset that we kind of have. So that was one thing that my father taught me. I think that took me 15 minutes to get out. This might be a long video. Okay. The next thing he taught me was I always joke and I say, I think my father could tell I was going to be a son of a bitch. I'm sure I'm super direct now. I still steamroll people. I'm better about it. I don't do it on purpose. I just have so much energy. And sometimes if you don't come like with a lot of energy, I might accidentally steamroll you. I'm working on it. Okay. I've been working on it. Anyways, let's go back to 8-year-old Nick advice here. So my father used to always say two things to me. He used to say, hear everybody out and be extremely diplomatic. And as a steamroller, he probably saw this little son of a bitch kid running around telling everyone to go fuck themselves and, just being abrasive and just being authentically himself. I mean, if you guys can imagine, I've never changed. I've always been this authentic, right? But I have had less etiquette to me, right? When I was a kid. And my dad probably saw that. So, like after soccer practices, after interactions with friends and family, hey, Nick, just, and he always said in a positive way, not like I did something wrong, but just always remember to be diplomatic and hear everyone's side of the story. And you don't realize, I didn't realize at the time that those two things it's kind of the definition of customer service, right? Serve people at the higher level. Don't just jump to conclusions. Hear everyone out. Make educated decisions, whenever you're working with people. And it was really a way of like reminding me to slow down. And he was really good about that. To this day, the skill I do have in that arena, a lot of it derives from him, which was huge. So that was another big lesson. And I was lucky that I didn't realize a lot of these things like till I got older, that he was training me at a very young age. And again, we can only hope for a parent with so much intention. And Dad, you crushed it. And so that was awesome. So anyways, I took these skills, and the first thing I decided to do was jump into restaurants. My sister worked at this shitty restaurant called Tony's Airside. Tony owned it. He hated me. He threatened to throw me down the stairs once. Yeah, that's a true story. I was on the second story, so we actually did have stairs he could throw me down. But he didn't. He never did. Spoiler alert. But it was this really crappy restaurant, and I was a busboy. And I'm working like 3-hour shifts. I think I'm like 14 to 16. I can't work more than that 4-hour window, if you guys remember that. And that place was really cool, actually. 3 to 4-hour shifts was awesome. Then I turned 18. And they were like, Nick, we want to promote you. We want to promote you to dishwasher. Okay. Yeah. So little did I know, not a promotion, not one bit. Oh, I go from working 4-hour shifts till working till 1 a.m, scrubbing everyone's backwash off their plate. Boy, that's what a promotion that was. So then I washed dishes there for like 6 months to a year. That was interesting. But the restaurant industry is really where I started. So I started as a busboy. I moved to a dishwasher. And then my next job was at Bonefish Grill, which you might remember. And Bonefish Grill, I was also a busboy, but it was high end. Like we wore chef coats. I had like these elaborate tables to set up with like wax paper and napkins. It was really cool. It was way more intricate, very fun. And boy, was I still a little shit. One thing I've always been really good at is identifying systems that exist around me. And then again, in my immaturity, I naturally just manipulate those systems to work towards my benefit, right? I mean, I'm 18 years old, right? I mean, what the fuck are we supposed to be doing? And I remember, on these schedules, there was a 4 o'clock busboy, a 5 o'clock busboy, and a 6 o'clock busboy. The 6 o'clock busboy was supposed to close every night. But I learned very quickly, because it was a new restaurant, that no one was paying any attention. So I just showed up at 4 o'clock every day, and I never had to close. Well, finally, after 3 months of that shit, the closers started catching on, going, hey, why am I closing? Nick is supposed to be the one doing this. All right. So that bursted that bubble. But I noticed in my life, especially growing up, if I identified the pattern or identified the system, I would utilize it towards my benefit if I did that. Now, we could view this one of two ways. Yeah, this is scumbaggy behavior. There's no doubt about it. However, It's also exploratory behavior. It's like one of my favorite quotes now is, I'm so manipulative that I know when not to manipulate, right? And that may sound like a confusing sentence. I'll say it again. I'm so manipulative, I know when not to manipulate. And the other point is, I don't really manipulate anymore. Now I influence, right? Manipulate has a negative connotation to it, even though manipulate could be as simply as like pulling a lever, right? That's a form of manipulation. But manipulation is somewhat negative. I've learned that as I've matured, that level of manipulation that started in my teenage years really has kind of grown into influence, right? It's matured over the years into something much more beautiful, just like this Death Star that's graffitied right here. So, and I'm just sharing these lessons because I want you guys to really know the deep down shit. Not like, oh yeah, like I was always good at this. No, I was good at identifying systems, and then I manipulated systems to benefit only me. Now, as an adult, I manipulate systems to benefit everybody, and I influence people to take massive action. And I want everyone to now be as blessed as I've been and achieve the same results I've achieved. Every day I'm full of gratitude because I'm working less and less. I'm almost down to like 2 hours a day right now. And that's why I'm creating Founders University. 2 hours a day isn't productive enough for me. I need to move on to what's next. And what better than this passion project? So, anyways, that's manipulation. That's influence. Those are some of the things that I noticed. So that was me being a busboy. So I ran the restaurant career until I was 30. Right after Bonefish, I got a couple more jobs and I got promoted into management. Management was awesome and food was perfect for me. I have ADHD, so I really needed something to help me stay focused. Okay, and staying focused is hard for me till today, especially if I'm not interested. Okay, if I'm interested, I am focused, baby. But if I'm not interested, man, I'm out of here. I hope I drove because I'm leaving. All right. But now I only really do things I'm interested in, which has led to a very, very fruitful life, very fulfilling life, which is really cool. So, working in restaurants, the food, the people, the money, the women, all of it. I mean, it was a cornucopia of everything that's great about life. The interactions were fun, the people were cool, the servers were hot, the customers were hot, the bosses were full of lessons, right? Like working with these assholes, restaurant managers. Oh, restaurant managers are way worse than restaurant employees. They're so sneaky and scumbaggy, just the same way I was in my younger years, right? I kind of grew out of the scumbag phase early. I was so blessed that I was such a scumbag at such an early age that by the time I hit my 20s, when I saw people behaving like that, I'm like, man, I've been there, man. Why are you doing that for? Right. And it allowed me to mature through that, which was awesome. So, but restaurant managers that I worked with, boy, did they have a lot of lessons for me. I had a manager break a rule and then write me up for it. I mean, they did whatever they could to scapegoat other people. I was experiencing one of my bosses was sleeping with a server. He was married. Okay. And he was sleeping with one of the waitresses. And the guilt started getting to him for cheating on his wife. And then he stopped showing up to work. He started saying he was sick all the frickin' time because he couldn't work a shift with this girl he'd been sleeping with. Well, I'm making $28,000 a year. And I tell the vice president of the company that this crazy shit's happening and I don't know what the fuck to do about it, but I can't work 80 hours a week for $28,000 a year anymore. Okay. They fired me. They fired me 2 weeks later. What I didn't know was this guy who was sleeping with the waitress had worked for that vice president for the last 9 years through 3 different jobs. He was her pet. She brought him from restaurant to restaurant. As she got promoted higher and higher in the hierarchy of restaurant leadership, she kept bringing him everywhere. I didn't know that. So instead of him being reprimanded, they fired me for identifying the problem and saying something about it. Those are the kinds of lessons I learned in the restaurant industry. These are beautiful lessons. You guys keep watching this going, oh, what the fuck? That's so fucked up. No, fuck that. I'm so glad I went through this shit. Leads me to another point of my father. Whenever I complained about anything that had to do with work to my father, he would say the same thing. But Nick, you're getting so much experience. I never even knew what the fuck that meant when I was a kid. Now, I feel like the Wizard of Oz. I feel like I fucking know everything. Why? Because I got so much experience. And we need to look at our lives differently. Sometimes we wish we had more money. I challenge you to go get more experience. That's what has to happen. Until your experience levels up and levels up and levels up and levels up, you're never going to make more money, which is one of the reasons why you're probably watching this video today. We're looking for more experiences that we can learn from so we can level up. And that's the exact purpose of these videos. I want to help escalate your ability to level up through entrepreneurship, through being a founder. I want to help escalate that through my experiences. But I didn't realize this at the time. So I would say if you're in your 20s, your number one goal is not to get money, it's to get experience. I never had more than $3,000 in the bank till I was 32 years old. I never had more than $3,000 in the bank until I was 32 years old. And you know how I got that $3,000? It was a bonus for moving from Florida to Phoenix across the country, which probably cost me $2,000 to fucking move. But it was the most money I ever had in my bank account till I was 32 years old. By 34, I started lead mining. By 35, my first time I was a millionaire. So don't think about money. Think about the experience you're getting. And just to let you guys know, I'm 39 right now. All right, so you can follow that timeline. Lead mining, we've been in business 7 years, going on 8 years in January, which is super exciting. And we've been very successful since the day we started. But the experience piece, I would really focus on that. And the restaurants gave me so much, so fast. I ran restaurants until I was 31 years old. Okay, I feel like I stuck around way too long. I hated myself. When I first quit, which I'll get to that story, I absolutely hated myself. Why did I stay for so long? Why didn't I quit sooner? How come the golden handcuffs were so fucking golden to me? Why couldn't I break free from this place? These were all the emotions. Oh, it put me in a depression. Not that I'd worked there, but that I'd never left. 13, 14 fucking years? Are you kidding me? Why the hell did I do that for 70 hours a week? It was crazy. So now I'll tell you how I left that industry. So I remember I was working at Leroy Selman's old barbecue restaurant here in Tampa and St. Pete area. And it was named after a Hall of Fame football player from the Tampa Bay Bucks. Great place to work. I loved it there. They ended up converting to what's called Glory Days, which is what it is right now, Glory Days Grill, which was cool, a little bit more Americanized, but it was cool. So we ended up flipping over to Glory Days, and then that's when things got crazy. Glory Days stayed open 2 hours later every night. They didn't want to add on any managers. My most common shift was noon to close. We closed at midnight. And I got out of there at 2 a.m. and I had an hour commute home. So my day would start at 11 on my hour commute to work. I'd get there at noon. I'd work from noon till 2 a.m. and I'd drive for an hour home. Now, I had a bunch of sayings that kept me happy in the restaurant industry. One real skill I have, other than extracting experience out of a situation, is tricking myself into enjoying something that sucks. Okay. I highly recommend you acquire this skill because you have to do things that suck. You have to. You absolutely have to until you finally get to a point where you no longer have to do things that suck, right? That's a point I just arrived at like in the last 3 months after 8 years of entrepreneurship. It takes a long time to get there. But as of right now, I can pay for my solutions everywhere and someone else can now experience what sucks. But for 38 years, I had to be the one that had to experience the shitty situations. And that is really important because now I need to control myself. I need to tell myself that I love it, right? It's not easy to love. I was married at the time. I'm leaving my wife for 14, 15 hours a day. Okay. Like, like what kind of, we don't even have a marriage anymore. I come home, I go to sleep, I wake up, I go to work. I had 2 days off a week and we didn't have either one of those days off together. So every day we're passing by and you think when I finally have a fucking day off that I got the energy to do anything, that I have the emotional availability to do anything. I didn't want to fucking do anything on my days off. And this suck that I experienced really made me who I am today. I did this for 13 years and I killed it. And I showed up to work and I had a great attitude and I got raises and I got promotion. At the end of my career, my biggest raise, I got a 33% raise one year. And, and I was just killing it in this restaurant. And that was huge. I went from $45,000 to $65,000. And I was so thankful when that happened. That was such a big deal to me. But it's like going through that suck and keeping a smile on your face. Your boss knows, their boss knows, they knows this shit sucks. They did this shit, most likely. And then us being able to trick ourselves to love this shit, that's important. I used to say, I get paid to eat shit for a living. And the good news was I'd talked myself in to shit tasting good. The bad news is once you talk yourself into shit tasting good, you start eating more shit. Okay. Gross analogy, I know, but you're probably relating it to your career right now. I get so good. Oh, well, Nick's got it. Nick's got it. Nick will take care of it. Nick will carry us, and then that's what led me to finally leaving the restaurant industry. So, Leroy Selmans gets bought out by Glory Days Grill. Glory Days, I run them for 1 year, and then they're finally opening up a Glory Days in my hometown. No more 2 hours driving a day. Finally in my hometown. I also was in a really bad car accident on the way to work during my commute. That's the part you don't realize. When you're commuting for an hour each way, your life is literally at risk at an exponential level. 10-minute drive to work, way different than an hour drive each way. I'm on the road way more. I'm at risk way more. I'm out in the wild. Cars could hit me. I could hit cars, crazy stuff. I was in a bad car accident. I fucked my back up. My whole body got wrecked. All my muscles were cramping up on me. My diet sucked. I'm working in restaurants. I'm sucking down fucking Coca-Colas left and right. And we had this amazing chicken sandwich called the Sweet Heat Chicken Sandwich back then. I ate one of those motherfuckers every day. Damn, was that good. But when the job fucking sucks, I'm doing anything I can to get my little moments of glory throughout the day, right? And if that's eating this fried chicken sandwich or drinking soda or doing these little things that are bad for me because I'm draining myself and giving it all up to this career, then I did those little things because they made me feel good. But then boom, car accident. I get into this really bad injury. For 3 months, my whole body cramps up, literally cramps up. I couldn't open doors. I had a cramp in the webbing of my thumb and both of them. They turned black and blue. Like my whole arms This was black and blue. My elbow was black and blue. My shoulder. So you could see like my tendon all the way through was like heavily bruised. Everything cramped up. I couldn't count money. I had to close. They had to have a server close with me every night just to count money because my thumbs were so cramped. I literally could not do this motion. It was crazy, crazy. But I still show up to work every day, 2-3 months. And that actually started my health journey too, because I didn't know what the fuck was wrong with me. I'm experiencing all this chronic pain. Doctors couldn't tell me other than the car accident. No one could tell me why I was cramping up or anything. So that sucked. But it was my a shitty diet mixed with a bad injury. That's exactly what happens. Our bodies repair themselves. If I'm not giving it the correct tools to repair itself, well, when injury occurs, it repairs wrong. It doesn't go how it's supposed to. It's all fucked up. It's all fried chicken and Coca-Cola now. You are what you eat, motherfuckers. It's true. And that's exactly how I was a big fried chicken sandwich at the time. Dunked in Coca-Cola. But that, and this story is the truth. So anyways, I recover from all that pain. Glory Days Grills opens in my hometown. It's my first day. Finally, a store in my hometown, Lakeland, Florida, 10 minutes from my house. I'll never forget. I walked in there like Macho Man Randy Savage walks into the fucking ring. Oh yeah, brother, it's here. Yeah, like I was so thankful that the restaurant, I no longer had to commute. Like my palace was built. And then I walk in, this is a true fucking story. I walk in and I check the schedule and I'm scheduled 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. And everyone else on the schedule is scheduled 5 days a week, 15 hours a day. They're working 15 hours too, right? This was a new restaurant. It opened 2 months before they transferred me there. And I'm like, hey, I'm not really that guy. I'm not really a pushover, right? So I'm like, hey, general manager, I got a question about the schedule. Everyone's working 5 days. I'm working 6. What the fuck is going on here? And the answer was, oh, well, we all were just working 6 days a week and then you showed up. So thanks to you, we get to work 5 days a week, but you now need to work 6 days a week for 6 weeks to give all of us a day off. That's what he said to me. And he said, and I said, no, I said, I'll work what the team works. If the team's working 6 days, I'll work 6 days. If the team's working 5 days, I'll work 5 days, right? Whatever the team works, I'll work. I'm very fair like that. And this was 90 hours a week. I'm not an exaggeration. Anyone who's ever a restaurant manager, 6 15-hour days is horrible. And then I spoke to the vice president. I said, hey, I don't know what the fuck's going on over here. I'm not doing this shit. I don't give a fuck. At this time, what had happened was that I didn't realize I had a stomach ulcer brewing in my stomach from all the stress from working so much. Okay. And I never knew that stress could cause physical pain. So my back problems were gone, but I had the stomach problem now. And that's funny. I touch my stomach right where it hurts every time. And I'll never forget that pain. It was so bad. And I remember one of my customers, she was a regular, her name was Stephanie. I'll probably tag her in this video. I love her. I was like an area manager, and whatever store I was in that week, she would always take her whole family and come and see me. Stephanie, I appreciate your relationship during that time and our friendship. It really meant a lot to me. Well, I sit down with Stephanie and I tell her that I'm hurting. And she says, Nick, you're stressed out. I said, there's no way I got this. I'm not stressed at all. And she said the smartest thing ever to me. She said, Nick, what your brain can handle, your body cannot. And, my body, and she was right, because I have ADHD, I can handle way more stress and way more shit than the average person. My brain can, but my body is as limited as everybody else. And it couldn't take on the stress that my brain was processing, even though my brain felt good about it. And that was such wisdom from her. What your brain can handle, your body cannot. And when I spoke to the vice president and I asked him to cut my hours, he said he would. I said, fix the schedule. We all need to be working 6 or I need to be on 5. It's one or the other. I don't give a fuck what it is. Then he said he would fix it. Then I walked in the next day and the schedule was the exact same. And they lied to me, or at least I felt like they lied to me. I don't give a shit. Schedule looked the same. I'm still on 6 days. So I walked out. I walked out on that career that day, that hour. I called my dad. I'm stressed. I'm frustrated. I couldn't believe they're treating me this way. I've been with this company 4.5 years. I could not believe that this is what happened. Then within, I think the next morning, I quit. My vice president calls. Hey, what's going on? Everyone calls. They try to get me to come back. It's okay. We need you. No, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back in there. Fuck that. I mean, they pleaded, they offered me, look, we'll pay you the same. We'll cut you to 40 hours a week. Nope. Hey, we'll do this. Nope. That's the thing about these jobs. I worked 13, 14 years in this industry. And you know what I say now? I say you have to walk out on a job like that, especially if you're good. They would have paid me anything to get me to stay. They would have come up with any deal to get me to stay. I had to go. For me, I had to leave. It has nothing to do with them. And they just wanted to thicken the golden handcuffs. We'll give you better hours and better pay. No, I gotta go. I can't do this anymore. And one of my big epiphanies were I didn't like my boss. I didn't like my boss's boss. And I'll tell you right now, I was recently on a podcast with Austin Zabek. If you don't like your boss's boss, then you got to get out of there. If that guy's a total asshole, that's your future. If he's not a role model to you, you're in the wrong place. And that was one of my biggest indicators at the time, that was the wrong place. And guys, that was the end of my restaurant career. Boom, it ended right then and there. I walked out, I did the damn thing, and I was looking for something new. So then what I did was I sat unemployed for 9 weeks. I don't know if you've ever gone from working 70 hours a week to not working at all, but that was really tough, really tough. And that's exactly what I did. And I started getting really depressed. I was married at the time. We were actually good financially. We were both making $65K a year, me and my ex-wife. And even without my income, like, we were fine. I didn't realize how much we were spending on Amazon at the time. I was getting packages like every day. I was so depressed from working so much. I was like a compulsive shopper. I was just shopping all the time and buying things I thought would make me happy and all kinds of shit. And it didn't. But I stopped the shopping and I started picking up photography. And I started doing photography like every day. It became my peace outlet. It became, my adventure. But the hard part was I took like my favorite thing and I told it that it was time to make me money. And that was tough because I'd been a photographer, an amateur one, for years. And now I'm trying to be pro. And now this poor photographer has to make me $60,000 a year. This poor camera has to now make me $60,000 a year. And all that pressure. And I did do it. I picked up a couple of jobs. John Kundig, big shout out to John. Love you, bro. He gave me my first marketing gig. I had a drone. I took photo. He has a dog training company. If you're in Central Florida, check him out. John K9 LLC is the name of it. But John was awesome. He gave me a chance. He paid me $12 an hour to come out there, use my camera, use my drone, film all this stuff. And I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but someone gave me a chance. So I did all this stuff in the intermediary. And I tried to take all these odds and ends photography jobs, family photos, wedding photos. I hated it. I hated taking my favorite hobby. and then turning it into a chore. Now it had to make me money. And I totally killed that hobby. To this day, me and photography have never been the same. I still have a great eye. I still love using my camera phone, but grabbing the camera and going on adventures like I used to is not happening. But guys, that's all I'm going to cover today. I know that this was a long one. I'm glad I could get it all out. On the next video, I'm going to cover my executive career in real estate education and the lead mining early years. But this one was kind of like, childhood up through this massive change of being a restaurant manager for 13 years and then moving into my next big move. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you so much. Hope you have a kick-ass weekend, and I'll see you soon.